Good evening, everyone. It's Danny Young here on a Friday night doing a Nutters call in. Thankfully, we've got a couple of the boys on. So we've got Justin, the North Carolina assassin, on the call, and we've got head of the Photoshop department, Ryan Deal, calling in from New Zealand. How are we doing, boys? You are good?
All well, thank you. All well, thank you.
All good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Right. I'm going to kick it off. We're going to talk about a couple of things that have obviously been spoken about this week, or certainly at the weekend, coming up, and a lot going on in the media about these two fights at the minute. And then and the floor is yours to talk about anything you want. So we'll kick off. I want to talk about AJ versus Whyte first. It's interesting looking at and listening to a lot of the media. Certainly this week, there's lots of differing opinions about this. Anthony Joshua coming off a 12-round decision against Franklin, and likewise Whyte the same as well. Neither of them actually put in any kind of performance. Obviously, there was lots of talks, lots of speculation leading up to the Joshua Franklin fight that Joshua was going to put on a performance, and he never kind of did. But was that because he had a new trainer, etc.? And then obviously going back to the Whyte Franklin fight, I mean, to be honest with you, it was disgusting that Franklin really didn't get the decision, because I didn't think it was as close as some people made out. Justin, we'll come to you first. Who do you think actually did the better job on Franklin, and why? Again, I think my opinion was that Franklin should have got a decision against Whyte, and I think I spoke to you just before that on a Nutters phone in, and I think we weren't really giving Franklin much chance then, but he obviously delivered some kind of performance that night.
Yeah. I think you'd have to say Joshua did a better job, because I agree with you. I wouldn't necessarily say that Franklin won, but it was close. Way closer than you would think it would have been. But like I said, I think that's just because Whyte's shot, and I believe that Joshua was near that level of being shot, because Franklin, he is what he is. He's okay. He does nothing special. He doesn't do anything well. He's just a tough guy that can go rounds, and that's all he is. And so, like I said, Whyte just barely got through it. And like you said, some people think he didn't. And Joshua didn't have to do a lot to beat him. I mean, Franklin just kind of come right at him, and Joshua did just enough to beat him. And it's like I said, because Joshua a few years ago would have knocked him out in the first 2-3 rounds. He wouldn't have went that far with him. But
it's
I don't think
you say that, Justin, right? Because a recent interview I heard with Anthony Joshua, he was talking about, like, he was kind of almost trying to tell people that it's not all about going out there and busting people out inside 7 rounds. Sometimes you want to just basically ride it out and learn your craft. But
I never believe that. I never believe that. Right? Yeah, I never believe that when a guy says, he's like, that's the bullshit. Every time, I mean, we've all been watching boxing and for years. Every time you hear that, I never believe it. I never believe it. They're like, oh yeah, we're happy to get these 8 rounds, and we wanted to get him 10 or 12 rounds. That's all bullshit. Like, was saying you don't get paid for overtime. You don't get paid to go extra rounds. That's always a bunch of crap. When you don't knock a guy out, that's not because you weren't trying and you were trying to get rounds. I've always thought that was the stupidest thing in the world, that you would actually send your guy out there and say, we know you can knock him out. We know you can knock him out in the first 2 rounds, but we really need you to put your body in danger, really get after it for 10 hard rounds, and really go out there and chance to get hurt or cut, because we would like you to get some rounds in. That is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. I hate when people say that, because it's not true. That in history of boxing, if that's ever happened, I don't believe it has ever happened, but you don't send the guy out there. Like, Joshua was not going out there to work on new things. He knows what he's supposed to do. He knows he was supposed to knock Franklin out. He knew what the deal was. He wasn't supposed to. Eddie Hearn, all the people did not pay him all that money, bring Franklin over for him to work on some technique. Like you said, that's past now. You can't change what you are when you've been going this long. Look over the years. What boxer has come back? Not many have come back and reinvented themselves after 20 or 30 fights and like all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I didn't know he could do that. Look how incredible he is. That rarely ever happened. I think Gotti did it for like one fight where he changed his stuff up, and then like the next fight he did the exact same thing. It never it just doesn't happen. You don't. It's hard to learn new tricks. That's why changing 50 trainers doesn't really do anything. You are what you are. He didn't want to go rounds. I think he's just gun shy. I think he's scared to get knocked out. I think he's scared to fail. So he just did what he did just to get the win. That's it.
Indeed, yeah. Ryan, obviously, I want to come to you and ask you your opinion. I'm struggling to work out. Obviously, it was an easy fight for Matchroom to make, bearing in mind that obviously both fighters, obviously AJ's got the big DAZN contract. Whyte's always going to be in and around it because obviously I think Eddie's in his back pocket at times. Do you think Whyte should be getting this fight, considering the last few years he's had? Because we go through his record, and obviously 2020 was the amazing defeat to Povetkin. He had the rematch, and obviously Povetkin I think he had COVID issues by that point. I think it had affected him, and obviously he got the KO win. Then a knockout from Tyson Fury, and then potentially a loss from Franklin. Should Joshua have gone for a bit of a better opponent, or do you just think this was the easy fight to make, therefore just make it?
Yeah, it's probably a combination of bad blood, previous fights, and there's not that much on the table really. When you get onto it later, but if Fury's going to fight Ngannou, Usyk's going to fight Dubois, then it sort of takes a few pieces off the table that, AJ, does he deserve another shot of beating Franklin at a title? No. Same for Whyte. It's almost a British title fight in a way. It's kind of that level. It's kind of they both have to take a step back and they both need each other. And if they're both going to go on and get a good fight, then they need to win something like this. They need eyes on the fight really, rather than just getting put in as an opponent. Because I mean,
do you think they see Dillian Whyte as just an opponent here, with the potential that he's going to end up lying on the deck? Because I think that's potentially the way they're looking at it, because they could have gone for potentially another name that would just fall over in the heavyweight division, but they've gone for Whyte because of obviously the tickets sold quickly. So we must be missing a trick there, right?
yeah. Well, they've gone quickly. Whether they've gone quickly to willing buyers or they've gone to StubHub is
that's up for debate, right?
I always get a little bit suspicious of these 10-minute sellouts, but yeah, the only other fights you would say for AJ would be Wilder. Like that's an obvious one, but he has to go to America for that. They're not going to bring Wilder to the UK on his own.
Are all roads leading towards a Wilder fight in Saudi? Is this what we're hearing, right?
Oh, I don't know if you're any way attached to Anthony Joshua. I don't think you want to see him the other side of the ring from Wilder. He'll get knocked out 100%. I've always thought that. I've always thought he'd just get anywhere between 2 or 3 rounds. I think Wilder would get rid of AJ, especially at this point.
Yeah, he definitely knock him out.
Indeed. So with that in mind, Justin, like, do you think is this the right fight for both of them at this time, or do you think they should have gone down other avenues? I don't know, because I just put it. I almost think Hearn's been a bit ballsy here, because like he could have built this up again, if that makes sense. Because I don't think Franklin against these two in their previous fights has built this up at all. Maybe they could have dragged this out a bit longer and built it up. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think it's not the right fight for Joshua. I think he should be aiming, if he's going, I mean, he don't have any fights left. I think he should be aiming for a higher level. But this is the perfect fight for Whyte. What else was he going to do? I mean, there's nobody. He had no options. I mean, he gets paid again for some reason. I mean, think about how much money this man has made on such a limited amount of ability, and he's just made a ridiculous amount of money. And like I said, this was his only option. Whyte didn't have many. He's not going to beat any of the top guys. He's probably not going to beat Joshua. So it's like this was perfect for him. And as Joshua, yeah, he should be aiming for better than this. I mean, he's been here, done this. He's already done it. He beat Whyte when Whyte was, I guess, technically close to his prime. Now he's going to face a washed up version. It's almost like when Fury fought Chisora again. It's like, I mean, Whyte, unless he lands some crazy punch, which I guess that's what his hope is, he's not going to win. And as far as building up the fight, for some reason, people, I don't know if y'all are included or not, but people over in the UK apparently love Dillian Whyte, or they like him. I don't know. They keep buying his
not in that camp.
Yeah, they keep buying his pay-per-view. They keep putting him out there, and people keep going. So I guess they don't have to worry about building it up because Joshua and Whyte, I'm sure it'll do okay. I'm sure it won't do as good as of like a couple years ago because, like you said, they both lost, but it's still going to do okay. It still makes some kind of money, and it's still a fight where Joshua is supposed to win, and so Hearn can keep using him, can keep dragging his body out there for another fight. If he beats Whyte, they'll play that off, and then they'll come up with some. But eventually, Hearn's going to cash him in one more time. That's what the hope is. He's going to hope that he knocks out Whyte, or at least beats him, and that he can cash him out. I don't know. Like I said, his hope is, yes, that he can go to Saudi Arabia, cash him out versus Wilder or Fury. That's the dream. And then if he loses, well, screw it. Look how much money I made off of him. I'll move on, and he'll just retire. That's what they're hoping. And yes, like I said, Wilder. We've already seen Wilder's got a good chin. Yes, he might get wobbled, but it takes a lot to put him down. Joshua does. I don't think Joshua's ever had the one hitter quitter power, like that one shot. It takes a little while, and he's not going to knock out Wilder. So, and we know Wilder can knock him out. So that's a simple fight for me. Like I said, I think Ryan was right. I think a few rounds, hell, maybe the first round. If Wilder lands once, it's over. That's it. So, and Joshua can't stay away long enough not to get hit. So, that fight, I don't know. I hope they do that just to cash him out. But that's what they're leaning towards. Hearn knows he's not. People give him a lot of hell, but he's not stupid. Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing on a lot of these things.
Do you know what? And do you know it brings me to this point, and it's I don't like to talk about people's kind of mental state, but I've got serious concerns about Anthony Joshua and his mental state. Bearing in mind, I think that Hearn's got to be to blame for some of the reason why he is where he is and how he's fought up to this point recently, in recent years. But both of you chime in as and when you feel free. But I just think that, I mean, I was there the night that Joshua fought Charles Martin for the IBF, right? And the big kind of celebrations and the over jumping around and all that, and I was looking even then and thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, let's not get carried away now. Like, I just worry for Anthony Joshua because he's had too many hype men around him, and I think now it's got to that point where he's so worried. Like, it's almost like the complete opposite. Like, he's been hyped up so much that the first defeat he had against Ruiz was such a oh shit, like it was like, I can't think of the words to describe it, but it was like, like that shouldn't have happened. And then the hype jobs get behind him again, and then it's back to like, no, you're good, you're really good, blah blah blah. And then Usyk comes along and destroys him in two fights. Well, not destroys him in one fight. I suppose you can give him a little bit more credit for the repeat, but yeah, I mean, I'm seeing some real mental fragility there, and I'm concerned that unless he comes out and actually puts on a performance this time, and I'm giving him this time, this is it now, because Franklin aside, if you can't pull out a performance against Whyte, then when can you? Because I as you allude to, I'd have serious concerns if he was going to go in the ring with Wilder and feel like he's got a chance there, because for me, I think it's I think all these hype men have really paid the price. Any thoughts?
I don't know. I go the other way. I think if you kept the microphone out of Anthony Joshua's mouth for the last 2 or 3 fights, we'd all be thinking like he's actually improved, because in the second Usyk fight, that was a way better performance from the first, and I'd say definitely, I think it was around 9 or 10 he hurt Usyk, and he definitely hurt him to the body late in that fight. So to say that
Yeah,
there's
Ryan, you say that. You
or
say
I
that,
don't think
right?
there's a quit in him.
You say that, Ryan, right? But let me obviously challenge that, right? Joshua, again, if I go by all the hype people, was the KO king coming up through, knocking, blasting everyone out. Yeah, he, for me, certainly in the Ruiz rematch and the two Usyk fights, very gun shy, like, and it was almost like he was too worried about what was coming back. So I can't really approve on the foot on the idea that he's fought better or improved when he's kind of very standoffish and trying to, he looks awkward trying to box off the jab, when really he should be doing straight left and rights and trying to find people's chins. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair, but that's his route to victory, I would say, because he obviously started boxing late, and he's well schooled technically. He's got the punches look fine, but it maybe doesn't blend as well as if you put him opposite Usyk, who does it in his sleep, who moves so fluidly, then he will look more robotic. And again, against Franklin has that awkward style where he tucks up and he throws counter flurries, and he's got quick hands but no power. So he's one of those guys where you have to fight him from the outside, and you can beat him easily that way if you've got the reach and you've got the power. Keep him on the end of a 1-2. As soon as you start trading with a guy like that, he's similar to Andy Ruiz in a way. That's probably why he fought that way. That's how you give guys like that an in into a fight. They can get a foothold, and if you trade with him on the inside, then that's when the left hooks and the overhand right start landing on the temple. So I don't blame them for that. I probably blame Eddie for, well, whether Eddie was the matchmaker involved. They shouldn't have put him in with Frank way. It should have been like that. I was saying the guy fought for the European title against Caballero. He's the perfect opponent because he's big, he's slick, he's got all the moves, but he'll get knocked out in 2 rounds. So that's the sort of guy they should have been looking to get him in with. Somebody with a bit of a name, a record, but was going to get knocked out. So.
Yeah, Justin. Just last thing on this fight before we move on. Just a good friend, Spencer Oliver, bless his heart. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, you're lucky in the States because he's all over boxing media in this country, and his opinions are whack, to say the least. Honestly, they are terrible. But he was giving it this week that Anthony Joshua was brave for taking this fight. Again, I'm just going to say it as it is. I think these two are two washed fighters. I think if Whyte wins, it's almost going to be Povetkin levels. You know what I mean? Like a one-off kind of like flash in the pan kind of win. If AJ wins, I think it's the Wilder fight and then retirement, because I think he'll get sent into retirement. Do you think this is a brave fight? And where do you?
No. You heard what I said. It's not a brave fight. I think he was paid to say that it was a brave fight, because that'll get people like trying to get
Spencer Oliver don't get paid.
Yeah, well, I think that's the way to push the pay-per-views. People thinking, I can't believe he would take this fight. No, I think I agree with you. Unless Whyte lands a crazy shot, but on the other hand, if Whyte did win, that's a lot more money for them. Like that would probably get people thinking. Hearn probably wouldn't actually mind. Honest with you, he probably
wouldn't. There'd be a rematch clause.
Yeah, so I'm saying he probably wouldn't care in the end, because he would still make a good chunk of money, and then Joshua would fight him again. He could probably charge more for the pay-per-view. More people would probably watch it. I mean, I wouldn't care, but a lot of people would. And then he still would have the Wilder fight. I don't think that fight's ever. I think Wilder would fight Joshua if he lost 6 times. I think he just wants to knock him out. I don't think Wilder really cares about Joshua hadn't won and this and that. I don't think he cares. I think Wilder has shown he'll fight anybody. I don't think he cares about that. Oh, he'll fight him. If he wants to fight, he'll fight. I don't care if he lost to Whyte. So that fight's still always going to be there now, 3 years from now. Don't matter. Nobody ever has to worry about that happening. And I guess that's the good thing about Whyte is he's shown. Wilder, he has shown he don't care. I don't think he'll stop and say, no, I don't want to fight that guy, or let's do this. Everybody else has come up and tried to throw roadblocks up, but I think he's the only one left that him and Usyk, I think they're only two left that don't really care. So no, I don't think that would stop that fight. But no, he's not brave. Brave would be coming over here and fighting Wilder in like Birmingham, where Wilder's from. That's brave. Brave would be like, you know what? Let's do 50-50. I'll take 40% and I'll fight. Let Fury have all the money. Let him have 80%. I don't care. I know I can beat him. That's brave. Just brave would be even just, I wouldn't even consider it brave, but because Hrgovic sucks, but that would be like, okay, well, at least he wants to fight somebody different, challenge an undefeated guy. Do
you know what? I was just going to say
that would be brave. That would be brave trying to go like, this guy sucks. I think Hrgovic sucks. And Josh would be like, I think he sucks. I'm going to show him. I want to beat him. Shut him up because he keeps saying, well, I deserve this shot. I've been waiting for my shot. Well, take him out of the equation. Instead, you're going to fight some guy that you knocked out that sucks, that is way past it. That's not brave. That's just safe. Let's just make some money. Let's screw some idiots that at a pay-per-view and then move on. That's definitely not brave.
I suppose this just a segue into someone we've mentioned there a couple of times. Obviously, Wilder is I'm assuming he's waiting on this fight with Andy Ruiz. I haven't seen any signs that that's a goer yet. So, if Wilder doesn't get any kind of a warm up soon, there's to be honest with you, there'll be no concern, right, Ryan? Like you'd expect Wilder, if Anthony Joshua comes through this, you'd expect Wilder to be just too good for Anthony Joshua, right?
Yeah, he's still got that dog in him, as they say over in America. He's when he gets in that ring, he just wants to knock you out. There's not anything else in his mind. So I think as soon as you come up against a guy like that, you've either got to have everything that Fury has, or if there's any kind of weakness or any kind of flaw, at some point Wilder will find it.
Agreed. So,
hey, can you imagine? You remember all the slow motion camera stuff when he hit Fury and all the fat was just jiggling? Can you imagine when he hits Ruiz? The shots of that slow motion, God, that's gonna be funny to watch because I think I want to see that fight because I think Ruiz will give him a fight, but then he's going to get knocked out spectacularly, and that's why you watch Wilder fights because either he's going to get stopped or he is just going to knock the other person cold. But yeah, I was just thinking about that, the slow motion of Ruiz, like his whole body just because Fury comes in the ring chunky. But he's like in 12 times better shape than Ruiz, so yeah.
Would that cause a tidal wave in the States?
God, it might make the ring. I don't know. That's good. That'd be cool. That'd be cool to watch. That's why you want to watch the fights to see the slow motion fat just move.
Oh dear. Anyway, right. Actually, before we jump off, I know it's a little way away yet, but. Your prediction, Ryan, will come to you first. AJ versus Whyte prediction.
I'll go. I think it'll go to points. I think it'll peter out towards the end. I think both guys will have made their money, and neither guy will want to get knocked out. So it's a lopsided AJ points win.
Yep. Justin.
I agree. Points. Joshua with his new style, he's not going to take any chances, and Whyte is not going to take any chances. So yeah, it'll just be a really terrible fight.
I'm going to stick my neck out, only because of Derrick James. I know that's his trainer now. I'm gonna hope and pray that Derrick James has said to him, "Be the beast he used to be." I'm going to go for a 8th round knockout. There you go. Right. Anyway, moving on. Is it a farce? Is it not? Should we be excited? Should we be pissed off? Fury versus Ngannou. I don't know. It's a funny one. This one. Ryan, we'll come to you first. Is it any credibility to this fight whatsoever?
No, not at all. It's heavyweight champion of the world fighting 0-0 in UFC fighter or MMA fighter. It just pisses me off.
Do you watch
And the
UFC,
worst,
Ryan?
I'm not particularly. I watch the odd. You know when there's like a really big fight and the knockout gets leaked on YouTube and it's like a quarter of the screen. That's about as much UFC as I watch.
Right.
It's yeah, it's not for me. It's just, it is for what it is. But striking is completely different. Like how you set your feet up, the angles of the shots. So I couldn't see unless they're actually a trained boxer, how a UFC or MMA fighter would translate well into the boxing ring. Bigger gloves, different stance, completely different movement. You know what you have to look out for, and so he is a big dude. This Ngannou, he does hit hard, but there's a difference between throwing a shot with a 4-ounce glove while somebody's looking for your kicks and your takedowns rather than you both just throwing hands. I don't know if you'll find that shot on Fury, but you never know. You never
Is that
know.
what? Sorry, I'm not.
That's why we love the sport, Jim.
I'm not a UFC person at all. Like again, I'm like you. If I hear of a big fight and there's been a dramatic KO, like I might have a look at the highlight or something like that. So what they're boxing with? What are they wearing on their hands? Any ideas?
It's either 4 or 5-ounce glove.
Yeah, it's a little thin glove. Yeah, it looks like a hand, like you had your hands wrapped. It's just
like
really,
yeah. It's just
yeah,
it cuts off before the knuckles, right? Or
yeah. That's pretty much all it is. Just a knuckle protection. It's barely anything there.
Yeah, I suppose and he's going to be wearing what, 8-ounce? Well, you don't know, do you? To be honest with you, 'cause it's almost like an exhibition. So
it's funny though, because I mean, he's a big guy, but Fury's huge. And he's still not even close to as big as Fury is. And this is just, I don't know. Fury, I think he's pretty much come out taking this fight and showing everybody he's played his cards now. I don't want to fight anybody tough right now. I don't really want to take anything serious. I just want to kind of play the character I've been playing and just take an easy fight for a lot of money. Hey, I can't blame him. I mean, I think from what I heard or read, they're paying him a lot of money to knock out this guy, basically. Because Ngannou he's like, I mean, I don't follow MMA, but I know for a fact, I'm pretty sure he's not like a superstar. He's not like the best. It'd be different if he was like, Fury was fighting the best ever MMA heavyweight versus one of the top. It's not that. He's not like.
Well, you say that. I've done a tad of research on Ngannou, and I see that a lot of his KOs have come from strikes. Actually, from a lot of punches.
And heavyweight MMA, I know for one thing, majority of their knockouts are strikes. They don't do a lot of. They don't do a lot of
groundwork. No.
Yeah, they don't do as much as the lower weight divisions do. It's a lot more stand up than the lower weight divisions. But like we said, that's why there's two different sports. If Fury went and fought him MMA, he would beat the hell out of Fury. If him coming over here, that's the way it always works. You can never compare the two. It doesn't prove who the better man is. It doesn't prove MMA is better than boxing or vice versa. They're completely different things. They're just different. They're different. That's why you can't take. It's just they're different. And so this is just a sideshow, and this is what Fury is now. He loves this stuff. This is him. This sideshow has him written all over it. He loves being, the ringmaster. This is what he wanted. This is going to be his time to shine because Ngannou, he's not going to be able to out-talk him. Fury's going to have the spotlight. He's going to do his thing, and that's it. It's just I don't know why they're doing it, but hey, let everybody else fight. If Fury wants to do that, only thing I say is what bugs me is if you're going to go off, not fight for a year, take stupid fights like this, you should give your belts up. You shouldn't keep them. You shouldn't. If you're going to do stupid things and say, I'm taking it, I hadn't fought in this long, I'm going to go fight MMA guys, you should be like, maybe put being champion in recess or something. I don't think you should just say, let me do what I want to like Charlo for a couple of years and then here, take them. Let everybody else just sit while I do my own stupid thing. Because this Ngannou is going to build up. Then after the Ngannou, God knows how long Fury will take after this fight before he comes back again. So you're looking at 2 years plus before his titles even get fought for. By the time all this is done, I just can't stand that. It's like you should, if you're going to do the side shows, you shouldn't be able to hold on to the belts forever.
So let me right. I'm going to play devil's advocate here, right? So Brian, right. So based on what Justin's just said, right? The GAD this week has come out and said that really he shouldn't be fighting Ngannou and he should be looked to fighting, right? And I'll give you the two opponents he mentioned, right? On this was on radio, on British radio. He said that maybe he should have either been fighting Frank Sanchez or Makhmudov, right? Bearing in mind that that's the GAD giving out his two choices, who's supposed to be a well-respected boxing, a member of the well-respected boxing media. Do you blame Fury for taking this fight over those two choices?
Oh, if they're the only two options, then yeah, I blame them. I don't blame them a bit. But when you go back to AJ and if it was a brave fight or not, the real brave fight, there's a certain Russian camping out in Armenia, big punching Murat Gassiev. That's the real brave fight.
Really? That's why'd you bring up Murat Gassiev then? Come on.
Oh, he's champion waiting. Like he's gonna fulfill my prophecy at some point.
And what? Well, he's only like 24. You know, every time he gets younger, every time you hear his name, so he's in the prime. He's in the prime of his career.
When I saw Gassiev in Latvia for the Usyk fight, he looked about 50 then. Oh no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't at that fight. Sorry, where have I seen him? I've seen him live somewhere. Maybe I haven't, or watched him. No, no, it was the. Sorry, I'm going to take that all back. It was the final against Usyk, and he looked old then.
Yeah, he's 29 years. They have him down as 29 years old. There's no way he's 39 years old, but not 29. Like I said, think about it though. If he say he legitimately is 29 years old, look how many years he should have left to fight, but doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything.
I'm telling you right now, he got a passport off Luis Ortiz.
He's not 29 years old.
There's no chance.
I like the top Google headline for him is "What happened to Gassiev."
Oh dear. Anyway, we've got another guest join the panel here, and we got Mr. Joe Kennedy, head of the Prediction League. Joe,
I thought you have to fight.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, bit rattly there, Joe.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm calling from the office, so it might be bad. Let me jump on and off again.
All right, no problem. Yeah, Gassiev. It's a strange. I don't know why you've brought up that name, Ryan. Honestly, Gassiev for me is obviously we saw that his last outing was that spooky non-punch KO that were in. Where was that? Was that in Russia? Or was that somewhere else? I can't bloody remember.
It's Armenia, I think.
Armenia, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, strange.
I don't know where he can get a visa to go in, but I can see it now. He's going to go to Turkey. He can get a new head of hair, and he's going to knock out your man. Who's that? The Turkish heavyweight that everyone seems to line up to fight, but you never see fight.
Oh, what the
Demirizian or not Demirizian?
No, the Turkish fighter.
Oh, you know.
Who's the boy?
Oh, the guy that owns his own boxing gym and fights there.
The one that Bradis knocked out.
Oh, I just know Firat Arslan.
Turkish guy.
He got shot. He got
you mean not Turkish? Not Turkish. He's
not Turkish. No.
He's Manuel Char. He's he's like from Lebanon or Yemen or somewhere like that. Yeah, Manuel Char.
Charles German,
Either way,
right? Yeah, he's German.
Knock him out of the head of there, and he'll be in the top 5 of all the rankings, and no one will want to fight him.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Mahmoud Umarat Char.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, Frank Sanchez isn't getting a big fight against anyone anyway time soon. He's awful to watch. And
he's what they always say, he's the risk reward. Like there's no point of fighting him because like you're not going to look good, and if you beat him, nobody cares.
All right, come on, let's on the spot then, right? Look, we all know that Fury's taking this for the money, right? There's no two ways about it, right? Fury is taking this for the money. If you're gonna go down the list of heavyweights that you want to see him in with, money no object, yeah. And I'm gonna go around the panel because we've got Joe now that's joined us back, and we've got Dominic who's jumped in. Evening, gents. I want each of you to pick an opponent for Fury right now, if you could. So Justin, we'll go with you first.
I think it has to be Usyk. I mean, that's the most obvious.
No, right, okay, right. Usyk
not
out
obvious.
The equation. Out the equation because he's already got a fight against Dubois, so it can't be Dubois, it can't be Usyk, and it can't be Wilder, and it can't be Ruiz because they're apparently fighting each other. So give me a name.
It would have been Joyce, but
and
it would have been
Zhang Joyce. You can't have Joyce either.
Yeah, it would have been Joyce till recently. If I had, I guess you would look at it this way. I guess the question would be if he had to fight one of the mandatories, maybe that would. I guess you would figure. I don't know.
It's
I think,
hard, right?
For my opinion, it's not a fight people want to see. But I just said his name earlier. I would like him to fight like Hrgovic just to get him out, just so we don't have to hear about him anymore. Yeah, just to like, okay, well, you had your title shot. You don't want to fight anybody. You finally got it. Now move on. Somebody like that, just to wipe the slate clean, and we don't have to deal with him anymore. I don't care about Joshua. I mean, who cares? That's not a fight he's going to. I don't care. Like I said, if you take out the big names, boxing gets kind of weird in heavyweight because there's not a lot of big names after you get past like 3 or 4 guys. There's not a lot of guys. There's nobody that can really beat him once you get past the top one. Usyk's probably the only one that can beat him, and after that, it's like there's nothing really left. Maybe that's why he's fighting Ngannou.
Doesn't it reflect badly on the heavyweight division?
Yes.
When we think the cruiserweight is the only hope that could beat a heavyweight champion. It's shocking. Ryan, let me come to you then. Pick me a name. If you exclude Usyk, Ruiz, Wilder, and Dubois, Joyce and Joyce and Zhang, who are you picking as an opponent?
The man on the bus, Otto Wallin. He deserves another go.
Wallin, yeah. Right. Which excellently segues me into Mr. Joe Kennedy, who is a good friend of Mr. Wallin.
I was going to say, you took my guy, Ryan. It's a pretty long list you're trying to exclude, but I think it pretty much sums up who is worthy and not worthy. I think we talked before about this current heavyweight landscape not being the strongest when you get down to the B's and C's level. So there's a lot of really shit fights. But maybe just for entertainment factor, get Huey involved. Maybe either they fight each other or else they do a tag team. They swap every round or something like that.
Family feud, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Get maybe Wilder and his brother involved as well. The Marcellus. Lesser spotted Marcellus Wilder.
Oh dear, that would be tragic.
I thought about this fight. You know how Huri's got the nasty back, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can you imagine how bad the fight would be to watch him versus Valuev? You remember how hairy he was, and then you have the back.
It'll be a hair and pus fest.
No, that crossed my mind. I was going down the road the other day. I don't know why random shit crosses your mind, but that crossed my mind. I was like, man, Fury versus God. I know it's a stupid thing to think about, but if you watch so much boxing, that's random shit that you think about. But God, that'd been just a horrible spectacle.
Imagine all that pus getting caught up in all Valuev's hair just sagging there.
Anyway, listen, this is the Boxing Asylum Nutters phone in. We don't talk about Huey here, all right? That's for another channel. I'm not going to name it. That's another channel, right? Dominic, welcome this evening. You okay?
Great, Don. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, pal. I'm good. We're talking about Fury and Ngannou at the minute. Given that the boys have struggled to kind of seriously pluck another name out, you've got to kind of again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. You've almost got to think, if Fury hasn't been able to get those fights, then really this is the only option he's had, right?
Well, when I was just thinking about the question, the 3 names that popped into my head, that given all the names that have been ruled out, The three I could think of were Bakoli, Makhmudov, and Frank Sanchez. Now, if you're talking about an entertaining fight, you'd probably rule out Frank Sanchez because just stylistically, him against Fury,
It's a ball fest, right?
it's a bore fest, and Fury probably just out of his size, he just outbox him. But it would just be put a glass eye to sleep. But I wouldn't mind either of Makhmudov or Bakoli. But the thing is, you know, that those fights are never going to happen realistically. Like Fury's not going to fight someone like. I mean, if he's being this truculent and this sort of intransigent about fighting Usyk, when Usyk conceded a 70-30 split for the fight that was supposed to happen back at the end of April, if you remember back, I know a lot of water's been under the bridge, but if he can't even accept that, he's not going to fight someone like Makhmudov until he absolutely has to. It's just not going to happen. And the same with Bakoli. I mean, it's just someone like Bakoli just doesn't do enough. It's just not a recognizable enough name. But if he had fought someone like Makhmudov, say in England this autumn, to me that would have that would have kept some of the criticism that he's currently shipping at bay. It would have retrieved. I think it wouldn't have completely retrieved his standing in the eyes of fans, but it would have sort of it would have staunched some of the bleeding, if you will. But I mean, it's just I think it's a complete it's just a disaster. By the way, Donny, I'm loving that picture of on your screen of music and
My man.
and here the best photo of the week was that one where he was sort of when the God was interviewed
Behind the gad.
that was fantastic. His sense of humor. Apparently, people say, I was reading something earlier this week, just about the whole Ukraine war situation actually, and it was just someone saying that the Ukrainian sense of humor is just quite distinctive. It's sort of like dark but comic at the same time. You know, it's like quite a distinctive sense of humor they have, and he seems to embody it quite.
I'll tell you what, he is one character, and obviously I've been fortunate enough to shake the man's hand.
Yes, I saw that in your Twitter picture just the other day,
Yeah.
actually. And do you know what it is? It's sort of like, well, you know what? Just to go on a tangent briefly, like one of my favorite Mr. Bean. You know, just the facial expressions.
Yeah.
And what was sort of lose sight of in this world is, you know, the inability to appreciate someone who can say a lot without and be funny without actually saying anything, just by the facial. And he just captures that. You know.
Do you know what? I'm gonna add. Do you know it was only yesterday I was watching Rowan Atkinson doing the invisible drum. It's honestly, for anyone that hasn't seen it, Rowan Atkinson doing the invisible drum kit is so funny. Like the facial expressions is so good. If you've not seen it, have a look. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent there again. Dominic, I know, fair play. Like, as I don't know if you missed it earlier, but I mentioned the Gad did say like he'd rather see him in with Sanchez or Makhmudov. For me, I mean, I think neither of them are. If you take money out of it, they are. I suppose they are potential opponents. But if you put money into it, there's no money behind it. Not only that, I think that Makhmudov and probably Frank Sanchez are both thinking to themselves, if I ride this out long enough, I might end up with a belt when they've all fragmented, right? Because it's going to happen at some point, right? So I think that's why you can strongly rule the pair of them out as a potential opponent. Whether you agree or not is a different matter, but yeah.
No, I think that's spot on. Just in an ideal world we're talking about, I suppose it's like a question of, you know, if he was interested in sort of if he was interested in sort of, you know, keeping on board with a lot of the fans that he's made through all the Wilder fights, you know, he would fight someone like a Makhmudov. But I think the bottom line is he just doesn't care. He's and you know, one of the guys who you know, he's no longer in the Nutters chat. The guy, I'm trying to remember his name. Is it Adam Hughes? I think that's his name. I don't think he's in the chat anymore, but he was sort of saying a while back when he was in the chat that, you know, the whole gypsy mentality is, and he was talking about Fury having been brought up this way, you know, flogging used cars as a kid, that, you know, it's just to get, they're just bartering and dealing. Everything is a negotiation, is a, you know, and it's just about getting the best deal. It's not, he doesn't care about Frank, he doesn't care about Bob Arum. It's just, you know, getting the best deal, and to hell with anything else, you know. And I think he has, you know, I think if you read behind the lines of what's going on, Frank's interviews this week when he's talking about the people in Saudi who have brokered this deal for this Ngannou spectacle, it's not, it's an alternative entity to this skills challenge. It's a sort of different body in Saudi. So basically, reading between the lines, what I took from that is that, you know, it seems that Fury said, Fury, whoever's representing Fury and Fury himself and Frank, they haven't been able to strike a deal with these skills challenge people. They've been asking for something that potentially the skills challenge people weren't prepared to give him. And they've gone off, and Frank's been saying, if you look at the line Frank's used, he said, skills challenge is not the only game in town in Saudi. So I think if you're looking at that, there's a, we're not privileged to really, we don't have the information, but it looks to me, it sounds to me that, you know, they just can't, they haven't, I imagine Fury's asking for stuff for a fee, for a price that they don't want to give, but
no doubt that would have been the case with Usyk, right? He's asking for money that's just not there, right? And that's the reason why that fight didn't happen. Because I'm sorry, I'm again, my man Usyk. There's no he like, honestly, I genuinely believe, right, he would fight for fuck all if he had to.
Yeah, I think I definitely think he wants to fight, and it's, I think with Fury, actually, not that I want to sort of praise Porky too much. I know he's an acquired taste.
You don't talk about Porky. No, I'm joking.
He said something. He did say something about a month ago when he was talking about this situation, which I thought, to give him his due, I thought was on the money. He said he just thought that Fury wasn't afraid of Usyk as a fighter, but he's afraid of losing. In the same way that I think for years Amir Khan was afraid of losing to Kell Brook, and having another British fighter being able to say that, no, you're not the premier welterweight in this country, and all the damage that would have done to Amir's image. And I think with Fury, you know, there's a lot of talk. He's got this Netflix series coming out in a few weeks' time, and if he had fought Usyk at the end of April and conceivably lost, or, you know, won a very, very contested decision, it would have taken some of the shine off this series that's coming out. It would have been not the series of like the heavyweight champion, which most people still see him as, but it would have been seen as like the series of someone who, you know, there's a pall of doubt and uncertainty over that status and reputation. So I think yeah, he will he would probably take the fight, but he's not going to take it unless he gets the price that he wants. And I think that the other the dynamic as well with the skills challenge people is that they seem to be very have a very good working relationship with AJ. They've done 2 of AJ's fights, and I think Fury, they make sense that the skills challenge people are sort of, they're AJ's people. They're sort of you know, work very closely with AJ, and Fury's perhaps insisting on an even bigger price than AJ got, an even bigger fee than AJ got for fighting out in those 2 Saudi fights. So it's going to be interesting to see. There's different rumors. There's rumors that, you know, the Fury and Usyk is going to be early next year, early 2024. But
I struggle to believe that, because
same
if
here.
they can't make it now, then they're never going to make it, are they? Right?
It should have happened. It should have happened at Wembley in late April. But
Usyk's an anywhere man. He'll fight anyone, anywhere, right?
Yeah,
and that just shows in his cruiserweight reign, right?
And you know what, Danny? I'm not like, although I really like Usyk, but I'm not. I wouldn't be like, say, I'm not complete like I wouldn't be an absolute massive Usyk fan, like in the same way that Andy is, or you are, or some of the other guys in the chat. I really do like him, but I'm not saying that I'm not completely out
You're
on his
not saying
bandwagon.
you're going to
I mean,
say he's not innocent, right?
Well, I wouldn't even say that, because I know that there's a guy on Twitter I would encourage everyone to follow him. He's called, I think he was on the pod a few years ago, Terry Dooley. He's a Manchester-based
Yeah, Terry.
journalist,
Yeah, I'm aware of Terry. Yeah.
and he's the person who, in fact, he goes further than saying Usyk isn't without blame. He actually says that Usyk and Krassyuk and Aegis Klimas are more responsible than Fury and Frank Warren for the reason that the fight didn't happen. That they should have taken even less than 30% back in.
That's stupid. What?
I know. I agree. I don't think that's right. But
No, Usyk should make the fight, and yes, he should have to get. I mean, I understand, but he should have to give in some. But it gets to a point of you can't fight for. I mean, it gets to a point where it's like a slap in the face, like with 10%, 15%. It's like,
yeah,
you get to the point of how low are you willing to go and let them just. You're a man, and how long you let it go for basically guys just slapping you in the face saying you do whatever the hell I tell you to, and you're a champion too. So I guess it does get to that point, but I agree with you what you said. I
suppose it comes down to the fact that look, this is what the most frustrating thing is about the sport of boxing, is that we end up talking about the deals as opposed to the fights themselves,
exactly.
or the potential fights. I think like that's what I mean. Love Andy to pieces, right? And I understand his frustration, because you don't want to spend every Sunday night talking about fucking splits, purses, potentials. You know what I mean? You want to be talking about
women's boxing. You don't want to do that either on a Sunday night either. Anyway, we'll move off of that.
Exactly. So it does get frustrating at times, and I don't. I appreciate Andy having his rants from time to time about the sport of boxing. How it annoys him. I want to come to one more point before we end up moving off this kind of Fury basis. And Ryan, will come to you on this one. I've put the question up there on the screen for people to see. Are we writing Ngannou off on the basis of McGregor's showing? Because obviously he was deemed as one of the best in MMA, whether he was or not. I'm not. Again, I go back to it. I'm not an MMA person. I don't know. But are we writing Ngannou off on the basis of what we've seen from McGregor against Mayweather?
I guess partly, but they are completely.
There's got to be an element to it, right?
Yeah, it's just different sports either way. Kind of, you'd write off Fury if he signed to fight up a Dagestani in Chechnya. You'd write him off in a wrestling match, So it's
baddest man on the planet, Ryan. They're labeling this as baddest man on the planet. If that was the case, right, would you not have a boxing match and then a UFC match straight after it, right?
Yeah, I think you have to. In terms of actual fighting, MMA is more realistic of what an actual fight would be. So, boxing is just a segmented part of it, but it's more of a sport than MMA. I would say it has more of those tactics and elements of different advantages coming to the fore. But I don't know, Ngannou, you can give him a bit of a chance. He's obviously a big guy, punches hard. He's trained as a fighter for probably half his life, so you can't write him off completely. But this is Fury. This guy, he took Wilder's best punches and he nullified him and knocked him out. There's no reason why he wouldn't be able to do that with a guy who's never had a boxing match.
Exactly. So, it's just like I think Ryan's right. You can't compare the two. And McGregor's what he did, that's nothing to do with this. You can't. It's different. Ngannou, if you watch MMA training, they do some sparring, but that's like way below the rest of the stuff they do. That's not a big part of what they do. And Fury is a great heavyweight, regardless of what you think of him or not. So a good heavyweight it's just not going to happen. It's just like if you put Chuck Norris or whatever you want to come up with. If you put him versus Yaki Lopez from the 80s, he would get his ass beat. Chuck Norris might be a karate champion. People think he's trained by Bruce Lee, but if you put him in the boxing ring versus a guy like Lopez who never won a title, but Lopez will still beat the hell out of him. That's just how it is. It's like people, you can't, it's never going to be able to compare the two unless, even if they fight each other in their own discipline, it just doesn't matter. I'll say it again, McGregor, that you could have put McGregor versus anybody. Top 50 guy in boxing would have beat the hell out of McGregor that night.
Yeah,
would have beat the hell out of him. Ngannou's the same thing. You take all the guys we just mentioned, those top 10 or 15 heavyweights, they were all going to knock him out. Hergovich, Dubois, they're all going to beat him.
I'm going to stick my neck out, right? If it was to be a boxing fight versus and then a follow-up in hexagon, right? Is that what they call it? Yeah,
I think. Or the
octagon,
I think.
Sorry,
yeah.
octagon, right?
We can go with hexagon. I think there is some kind of wasn't that Triller thing in the hexagon?
I don't know. It was in the triangle, wasn't
it?
The
triangle.
In the triangle. But anyway, I'd give Fury more chance in a UFC fight than Ngannou in a boxing fight. Off no basis, basically, but I could see Fury as being quite a bit of a lump to kind of like cuddle up to you and to hang on to.
Well, think about it. Look at Fury's boxing skills and his reach and those smaller gloves. If he just a jab might knock Ngannou out with the thin gloves. I mean, Fury's got so much weight behind it. If he was just able to hold him off
if it was a stand-up fight, you give him every chance.
If Fury held him off long enough and didn't let him take him down for it's 30 seconds, he would land at least one shot and probably knock him out.
Oh dear.
Just a question for all of the guys that we'll have here, Don. Are all of you watching? Would all of you be watching the Fury and Ngannou fight live? Because I certainly won't.
No, I'm not watching it. No.
Do you know what? I'm going to take it on the value of what I did when Mayweather fought McGregor. It's a spectacle, and I will have to watch it.
Well, I see Mayweather and McGregor. I still haven't watched more than a few scattered highlights of that, and it's the same with it. Like Fury and Ngannou, if it's uploaded on YouTube in the week after it, I might watch a few highlights. But I mean, I haven't even watched Mayweather. I haven't sat down and watched Mayweather and McGregor from start to finish. I mean, what the price they're going to put in this is something like 25 quid, in our money. So, I mean, a fight I bought earlier this year. I was just thinking about it before I asked that question, Donnie. Back in March, the Caleb Plant, or as Andy would say, Caleb Plant, versus as Porky would say, Benavides. Now that was it. I paid that. I think that was in Fight TV, and that was to me that was money well spent because that was a great fight. But you know this year, I definitely, because there's a glut of pay-per-views coming up in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, without going into detail, there's fights you pay for, and then there's some you don't, right?
Yeah.
So, I think this will be one that I don't pay for, but if I get to see it, it will be a bonus. It will be like, you know, the Tommy Fury Jake Paul fight, right? It's hyped up spectacle.
Well, here's the other thing. We know very little about it. Now maybe they'll disclose all these things, but we don't know if it's 10 rounds or 12 rounds. We don't know if there's going to be 3 judges. You know, there's a lot of
bloody 6 rounds.
Yeah.
I mean, what UFC fighter only does 5 rounds, right?
That's the other thing. I know I don't watch any UFC. I've never seen Ngannou fight at all. I don't know anything about it. I genuinely don't. I'm not. I regard the UFC as thuggery. You know, it's
they do 5-minute rounds. I think that's how it works.
Long rounds.
Yeah.
They've got some engines in them. I'll give them credit. They've got some engines in them.
No, they're great athletes. I just don't enjoy watching it, but they're great athletes. I mean, you can't say that, but I don't enjoy watching it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've never had that. I've never had any. I never had any inkling to. It can't draw me in. It can't sustain my attention. There's no artistry to it. I don't think. But yeah, you mean it's. I just think it's bizarre, but I certainly won't be. I certainly won't be paying to watch it. That's for sure.
No, indeed. Right. going to end it there with Fury and Ngannou, because I think we've talked the pants off it, and we've segued into Rowan Atkinson and all sorts. So I think that means that time is up on that. We've got some excellent fights coming up. Let's not dismiss it. I was sorry. Before I go into that, I really wanted to talk about Nonito Donaire tonight, because obviously he was meant to fight this weekend, but as Justin's informed me, thankfully, that he has been pulled and is going to go on the Spence Crawford undercard, which means that I won't talk about him tonight. But it's a shame, because he's a lovely personality. He's a credit to boxing, and it would have been nice to have a chat about him. But I'm hoping to do a Nutters call in, or maybe get Steve to do a Nutters phone in prior to the Spence Crawford fight on the night anyway. So we'll get round to that another time. We've got Inoue versus Stephen Fulton coming up. We've got Spence versus Crawford coming up. I mean, two of the biggest fights you could probably get in boxing right now. Probably two of the biggest fights we've probably had in the last maybe potentially 5 years of boxing. We'll start with Inoue Fulton. I know, Justin, we spoke a little bit about it. Obviously, Mr. Dill and Dominic, we haven't really spoke about it. The floor is yours, boys. Any interest in this Inoue Fulton fight? I mean, are you looking forward to it? I mean, I've stuck my neck out previously and said that I think Inoue's. I fancy Inoue on this one. It's no detriment to Fulton. I don't think Fulton's a terrible fighter, but I just think Inoue has shown, certainly in the Paul Butler fight, that he has the ability to change up what he's doing and find a win no matter what. And I think, from what I've seen from Fulton so far, and this is again not to discredit him, I haven't seen an incident or an opportunity where he's had to kind of really mix it up to kind of get the win. So again, anyone chime in, go for it, talk about this great fight that's coming up.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I remember Wellington, when it was first announced, he was saying that he thinks Fulton's gonna win this, but I think Inoue can absolutely smash the living shit out of him. He's a bit of the fake news. It's fake news. Fucking Fulton. He's got like a slick sort of shoulder rolly inside style, but whenever I watch him, I feel like he never lands punches. I don't know if that's just me watching something else, but I think he's going to stand in front of Inoue and he can get raked to the body, he can take uppercuts, and yeah, I think he'll knock him out in 6 rounds.
6 rounds. That is impressive. I mean, if he did that, wow, I'd be impressed. I'd be really impressed. Dominic, I mean, we haven't spoke about Inoue Fulton. Yeah, go for it. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Who's Inoue?
You are now taking the piss, right?
I know if I recall, I know you.
Oh, give it a rest, will you? Come on.
No,
Inoue, Inoue. I mean, I'm only going off the basis of when I went to go and see him fight in Scotland.
No, that was more a nod. The Portuguese pronunciation. It wasn't anything against it. It wasn't against you, Don.
Inoue, eh? All right.
I know you. Actually, the last time I was on the pod, proper on a Sunday night, it was I think it was the week before, Yard Better Behave, and this fight came up for discussion. I think it had just been announced, early in January, and I'm pretty sure at that time, this was before the first cancellation. Remember, the fight was pushed back.
That's right. Yeah, there was someone Inoue had an injury, right?
Yes, that's right. Inoue had an injury, and at that time I thought, and I still think now, that that Inoue will win a decision, not on a fight not dissimilar to the first Donaire fight, which I think it'll go with 12 rounds, and I think Fulton displayed in, for example, fights like, although he's sort of chiefly regarded as a slick Philly boxer. He showed in like the Figueroa fight that he can really go into the trenches and bite down on the gum shield and got it out. And I was just actually listening to an interview with Carl Frampton earlier this week, in which he was reminiscing about sharing many rounds of sparring with Fulton.
Okay.
And this was after Frampton had left the McGuigans when he was training with Jamie Moore. And Fulton just sort of shows you it's quite unusual for like an American fighter. At this stage he was sort of up and coming, but he used to come over to England and stay for a good block of sparring for a good number of weeks when Frampton was getting ready to fight the likes of Donaire, I think, back in 2018. So they've shared a lot of rounds of sparring, and Frampton was saying that in all that sparring, Fulton always sort of showed he never really fought in any other way than slick on his toes and good boxing. He never really was going toe to toe brawling in the spars. But so Frampton was saying that
I got to be honest, Dominic. I didn't know. Again, when it comes to spar, I know you're obviously you're a big fan of Frampton's, and you know a lot about him. I didn't know that him and Fulton had done sparring, and I got to be honest with you. If that's the case, then it kind of goes to show that why Frampton, performed as he did at that point, and why Fulton has kind of come to where he did. Because obviously, if you're going to get that level of sparring, you're gonna end up learning a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, and that was there would have been great spars to watch, of course, but that would have been just sort of shows you his mindset. Like he's a real fighter. He's it just sort of shows the sort of desire and drive to improve himself that he must have had. And Frampton said actually in this interview that I was listening to earlier this week that he was actually in Philly about 8 weeks ago. I don't know why he was over there. It may have just been a holiday, but he said he was watching Fulton in the gym back then. This is about a couple of months ago. And he said he was, now this must have been probably around the time when the fight was first postponed. And he said even then Fulton was already in top shape. But in the interview, funny that Frampton gave the other day, he sort of said he hoped Fulton would win. Not that he dislikes Inoue, but you probably would know Fulton quite well, having sparred him. But he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't actually commit to saying that he thought Fulton definitely would win.
Yeah.
And that was the difference I took on that. But I think Fulton, the fights at Super Bantam, and he's been in with big dogs like Figueroa. I think he has enough about him. And I know Inoue is a devastating puncher, but I think he can get the points. And I could even see it being. I think Steve said on the pod that Steve thought it could be like a controversial decision, that some people think Fulton should have got the decision, but Inoue gets it, being that
In Japan. Yeah.
And I can see that there. But I can
also. You know what, right? I'm gonna give a caveat to what you're alluding to here. I think, despite the weight differences, obviously, Fulton's been fighting at his weight, and obviously Inoue is coming up. I'm gonna give the caveat that I think Inoue has fought better opposition up to this point, given the fact that you got to look at Inoue's fucking like his reign.
See the fight that he had against on the Taylor Baranchik undercard in Glasgow.
Yeah, that was I was there. It was incredible.
You were Manuel. You were that one, were you?
I was 5 rows from the front.
Right.
It was,
that must have. I was Manny Rodriguez.
Yeah, Rodriguez. It was incredible. Like
2 rounds.
Right. I'm going to go off a tangent here. I took my dad up to Glasgow. Right. I said, right, because I took my dad to Latvia for Usyk Bradis, right?
Uh-huh.
And he saw that and said it was incredible. And I said, right, you got the buzz now. I said, right, we're going Glasgow. He went, what? And I went, right, I'm taking you Glasgow. We're going to see Taylor versus Baranchyk. I said, but more so, I said, on the undercard is going to be Naoya Inoue. And he was like, who's him? And I went, don't worry about it. Japanese fighter, incredible. Honestly, he'd said, bearing in mind, this is my old man who's like, God knows what age he is now, had been all through the years of 80s boxing. He was just like, that's one of the best beatdowns I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good. Like, he was so good. And that's why I can't write him off from this fight.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of weight and opposition. I think, again, I go back to it, as I just said, and Ryan, obviously chime in if you think, right, I think Inoue has fought better opposition, regardless of weight, opposition up to this point. I think Fulton's last couple of fights, yes, good names, you know, good wins, but I think Inoue fighting Donaire twice. You can forget Paul Butler, but you can look at the champions that he's fought on his reign to get up to where he is now. I think that's a much better a better resume.
Do I know what the UK TV is for it?
Who will this will it be? Is this an ESPN fight, right?
Well, I think it could be, because I think Inoue he's with sort of affiliated.
He's
to
with
Top
Bob,
Rank.
isn't he? Yeah.
So it could be on Sky. If
Could be on Sky, right?
Yeah, if they're showing it, if ESPN are carrying it in the States, usually they sort of have that deal where
The
Sky.
Paul Butler fight was on Sky, right?
Yeah, I think it could be. I think it's probably most likely. I'll have a look. Actually, it'd be interesting to look at that. But yeah, it's on the Tuesday, isn't it?
Indeed, yes. I love the random days. Like, it's really funny because when it's on like a weekday, you kind of like you're at work and you're trying to find like a little stream to watch it because you're like, I'm having lunch early. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those ones.
It's definitely a fight that you want to watch live.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of fights these days, I'm at the stage now with the sport where I can tolerate seeing it the next day. But this is a fight that you really want to see in live time.
Yeah, indeed. Go on then. I'm going to put you on a spot, Dominic. Ryan's obviously said he kind of agrees with me. He thinks Inoue might come out on top. What are you looking at there on this one?
Yeah, I'll go for Inoue on a decision, close but clear unanimous decision. Not dissimilar to the first Donaire fight, where Fulton really is competitive and genuinely competitive, but sort of a 7 rounds to 5 for Inoue.
I'm going to give, right, and before we kind of lose ourselves a little bit, I'm going to give the Japanese. Well, I know there'll be random judges, right? But you always get a fair scorecard in Japan. I think. Like, I haven't seen an instance where you haven't got a fair scorecard.
I think you're right. I think even, like, say, for example, when Golovkin fought Murata, I think there was nothing untoward. I think you're definitely the point you're saying that there's a lot worse places. There's many places a lot worse than a good bit worse than Japan for not getting fair scorecards.
I think that could potentially have been a reason why Fulton's kind of okay with going out to Japan. I think he knows that he's going to get a fair shake on the card.
He's probably been advised, hasn't he? He's probably been, the PBC guys, Heyman, whatever. They've probably talked about it and thought, you know, I think it's very interesting. It's quite rare that you get PBC guys coming over to Britain.
Yeah.
You know, you had Gervonta Davis coming over to fight Liam Davis.
But they knew they were going to win that.
So and they knew they were going to win, but you know, inside the distance. So that was a sort of exception that proves the rule. So I think it's instructive that you know somewhere like Japan is seen as safer ground. And just on that point about just on a brief tangent, Danny, about the Tank Davis, Liam Davies, was it not Liam Davies? Sorry, Liam
Walsh.
Walsh. Sorry, yes, Liam Walsh. Have you listened to just going back very briefly to the Usyk Dubois fight? Frank's reasoning for believing that Dubois will win. He's been referencing back to the Calzaghe Lacey fights and the Nas Kevin Kelly fights and the Donnie Williams Mike Tyson fight.
He's clutching at straws there, isn't he, old Frank? I'm
Well,
looking
this
at
is-
him in Ryan's picture, and I'm thinking, Frank, do me a favour.
Well, this is the thing. He was talking about these three examples as examples in the past where he likes to think he said he likes to think he gets it right most of the time, and that these were examples when his man, his fighter, was seen as the rank outsider, and on each occasion he backed his man, like Donnie Williams, Kalzaki, and Nas, they're going to win it. But what he didn't say was all the examples where even where he had got home advantage, like Tank Davis against Liam
Yeah.
Walsh, and the other example cleverly against Kovalev. And he doesn't mention those. I'm sure there's those are just the only two examples that came to my mind where, you know, there's been plenty of times where he hasn't got it right, but even with the home advantage, but yeah, I just thought it was a bit desperate, the sort of the logic and the reasoning that he was trying to come up with for believing Dubois could win. But yeah.
Oh well, it's Frank is a one-off, and boxing wouldn't be the same if he wasn't there. To be honest with you, it's a pleasure to have him around at times. Ryan, let's move on to Spence Crawford. I mean, come on, this is the one, right? This is the one that everyone wants. I mean, I feel like this is what I mean. Like, I feel like Inoue Fulton's a nice little warm up, and then I feel like Spence Crawford is the one. I'm going to hit you with it. The big question, Ryan, is Spence going to have a car crash before this fight?
I don't know. Something's going to happen. You never get these fights. Always something comes out in the fight week.
It's not going to. Please, Brian, don't. No, it's not. It's not happening, right? Everyone's going to be fine, and this fight's going to take place on the date that it's meant to, right?
Yeah, right. I can get behind that. Diamante's nowhere to be seen on the PBC card these days, so there'll be no fucking.
Spence is not on the back of the Gads motorbike. You know, Crawford's not overeating. We're all good, right?
Do you know who you remind me of?
There might be one Crawford overeating. I don't know if the character. Fucking.
I'm getting. When I listen to you, Ryan, I'm getting press pass Paul vibes.
Jesus Christ!
Do you remember? Do you remember press pass, Ryan?
Yeah, I remember press pass. Yeah, well, I'm sort of Shropshire,
Midlands,
on the Staffordshire border. Yeah, so I'm probably. I think he was Midland somewhere. So I'm not too far.
Didn't press pass join the 500th? Not the 500th boxing asylum like thingy. He did.
That's right, and Bran King did as well.
Yeah, no, that's good. That was a good night. Enjoyed that. Yeah, it was good times. But yeah, Ryan, sorry, go back to you, mate. Yeah, sorry. You jokes aside of the whole kind of Spence. I even joked recently on Nutter's pod that Spence is his entry to the fight against Crawford. He'll be driven by Richard Hammond from Top Gear. But jokes aside, I mean, obviously, I haven't spoken to yourself. I haven't spoken to Dominic about this fight. Go balls deep on this one. Talk to me about how excited you are, what you think's going to happen, the tactics. Go for it. Go break it down.
Well, very excited. It's the best fight we're going to get all year, and we've had a good year. Like, people were moaning about all this Francis and Ngannou nonsense, but you can forget about that. There's been enough good boxing this year to kind of keep yourself busy. I've actually been watching. I think it's the 24/7s, the Showtime documentaries to do, and Spence was looking a bit chunky. So this is his last fight at 147, definitely. How he makes the scales would be a big factor, and we'll probably end up with a ceremonial weigh-in, I think, for this one.
I don't. Well, actually, you bring up an interesting point there. It might have been Wellins. I can't remember. I remember speaking to someone about obviously size difference, and they were saying, "Oh, Spence would be a lot bigger." Crawford's still quite tall. Like I expect them both to be kind of a similar size when they get to the ring, right?
Yeah, I think Spence would just be more filled out. He's been at the weight longer and probably just a size bigger, but I don't think it'd be an issue for Crawford. I think he's strong enough, and I don't think it's not going to be a clinch fest or a kind of leaning on the ropes kind of fight either. I think it'll be at mid range for most of the fight. That's where both guys do their best work, and I think that's probably what we'll see. We see them meeting each other in the middle of the ring in the first bell and exchanges throughout. I think that's how I see the fight going, and if that is how the fight going, I can't see anything other than a Crawford possibly late knockout, but more likely maybe a couple of it'll hurt Spence a couple of times whether he can get rid of him, because we haven't really seen it from Spence where he's been knocked out or he was hurt against Ugas, but he came through it good enough. So yeah, I'll go Crawford points. I think he'll be too cute on the inside. I think Spence will do good work to get into range, but then his shots are a bit more cuffed in, and the high activity I think is just going to give Crawford more opportunities, and you'll start seeing those uppercuts and hooks really landing heavy as the fight gets on.
Yeah, I don't know. I said it before. Like at this point in time, I fancy Crawford more, Dominic. I've got no real kind of reason to kind of go with my gut there. Like I'm just, I don't know. I've said before on previous Nutters call-ins that there's pretty much there's 2 or 3 boxers that can really turn it on when they know that they're down in a fight or they need to go for it. There's Beterbiev, there's Inoue, and then I think there's Crawford. And I think that's the reason why I'm slightly edging towards him, because I know that if the going gets tough, I think he's the only person who can really turn it on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this is such a big fight that I don't think he would want to tempt fate by getting himself into a position that he was in the Porter fight, where he they told him that he was down. Now, whether I can't remember if he actually was down in the fight, but they told him at the end of that 9th or whatever round that he was behind. But
I think that was a case of just to get him going. Like I feel like maybe that they thought that he was being a bit lackadaisical and just wasn't really doing what he normally does. I don't know.
Yes. I was just intrigued there. What Ryan was saying about thinking that Crawford could win on points, because my thinking, one of the few concrete thoughts I had about this fight was that if Crawford is to win, he has to do it inside the distance, because again, I say I hear all the people that say we don't want to talk about the politics and the behind the stuff scenes, but to me, in this fight, I think it's hard not to talk about those things, in the sense that the reason that this fight hasn't happened for so long was because Crawford was, reticent or reluctant to throw in his lot with the PBC. And there's a feeling abroad, I think within the industry, there's a feeling that Spence is very much the PBC man in this fight. He's more of the house fighter. And
of course he would be, right?
Yes, he's been there. He's sort of pledged his allegiance to the PBC from the beginning of his career, whereas Crawford, seems to be a bit more independent.
But it's smart. It's a smart move from Al Heyman, right? Getting this fight together, right? Because he knows that there's potential rematches and all sorts. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think there. One thing that I found very interesting in the context of this fight is the recent announcement of Canelo against the 154 Charlo, because I've always thought that there's always been this talk that Spence will eventually move up, if not to light middle, even to middleweight. But I think there's something in the sense that if Charlo somehow beat Canelo, that those titles would be vacant, and he would only maybe vacate them for for his gym mate. They're both trained by the same guy, and Derrick James, that the guy from the same gym would move up and sort of fight for those vacant belts. Say, for example, if Crawford knocks Spence out, which if I'm pushed, that's what I'll probably say, that he'll stop him late. That they can say, well, it was taking too much out of him, getting down to 147. Do you mean, like, put it this way? There's a rematch clause in place here now. If Crawford knocks Spence out, do you think they're going to go for that rematch again? I mean, if he knocks him out in the first fight, it's different having a rematch if the fight is like a disputed decision. But if it's a fight that Crawford gets a decisive knockout in, do they really want the Spence? Will it really make sense for him to go back into immediate rematch instead of citing the weight and moving up to 154?
I tell you why. I tell you why I don't think it'll happen, because I honestly thought Josh Taylor should have gone up a weight when he'd won all the belts against
Same here. Against
Ramirez. I thought that was it. He should have gone.
Yeah.
Why fight anyone else? Go up. Again, I go back to it. Me and Andy Patterson were chatting to his dad in a bar in a hotel next to the arena in Glasgow, and the Hydro, and his old man was saying he'll do this World Boxing Super Series, he'll win belts, and then he'll move up, and he never did, and he should have done. I feel like this would be the case. This would be the case for Spence. He should move up.
I think Taylor was badly advised to stick around at 140 for as long as he has, and
he looked awful against the fight against
Lopez.
No, actually, I think he looked better against Lopez. The British guy whose name is
Cattrall.
I think he looked awful.
Yeah. What the interesting thing about Spence is, if you look at the last fight against Ugas on the scales, I thought he looked fantastic. I mean, I really thought he looked incredible shape, and in the fight itself, there was no sense that sometimes with weight trained fighters, their stamina down the stretch is a problem, but he just got stronger in that fight, like he get in most of his fights. But there was I think, as Rand said, there was a point in that Ugas fight where he was momentarily wobbled. But just Ugas wasn't that sort of fighter who would sort of go through the gears and really put him in deep trouble. The analogy, when I was talking to Steve about this fight when it was finally finalized, was the famous fight in '91 between Michael Nunn and James Toney, when Toney came from behind to knock out Nunn in the penultimate round with that big lead left hook. And he needed to knock him out because he was behind. And I thought, I said to Steve, I can see sort of Crawford reprising the role of Toney, and sort of
that's my faults. Yeah, that's my faults indeed.
Spence as Nunn sort of being ahead, the more steady work rate, getting the lead, but Crawford sort of coming behind. But I think Crawford I think he needs to knock Spence out. I really believe that. I think he would struggle to get a decision. I really do believe that he'll struggle to get a decision here. Unless
I almost think for Crawford, this is a repeat of Sean Porter, right, Ryan? I think that he's gonna think like he's behind on the cards, and he's gonna come out absolutely fucking raging and gonna step on the gas, because I don't think Spence can do that. I think Crawford can do that.
Yeah, he's got that killer instinct, Crawford, where as soon as he gets any kind of inkling that he's hurt Spence, he'll go for it. But it's not going to come in the first half of the fight. I think the first half of the fight will be Spence activity, kind of work rate. Would he hurt Crawford? Maybe, you never know. But
I don't know. I can't see it.
He's not a big. He's not like a huge knockout puncher. He wears people down, and he's gone to decision quite a few times in the bigger fights. Porter. But
I think his best chance of hurting Crawford would be to the body, but how does he get to the body?
His footwork so good, but both their footwork so good. That's what makes this such a good fight. I think both. I've got to be honest. I'm just going to say it as it is. I honestly think as much as good as the Ugas win was for Spence, I still have concerns about the car crash.
No,
Um,
I don't. I think he's gone past that. I think
do you
he's
think?
had enough fights and the eye and the car crash and yeah,
He's a big unit, Spence. See when you see him in those training clips in the 24/7 program or the Showtime program, and I've watched a few clips of him on the heavy bag, and some people have been saying he looks flat-footed on the bag. But that's just more the way he fights. But he's a big unit. You know, if Crawford is able to hurt him, you know, if Crawford can hurt him and get him going and finish him, that would be a serious win. You know.
Look, I'm going on a right tangent here, right? But this is a question for both of you, right? Who's your favourite Crawford? Is it Terence Crawford or Cindy Crawford?
I've always preferred Liz Hurley, Don, so I would have to say Terence. Terence
Do you
is my
know-
favourite Crawford.
Right, Ryan, Cindy or Terence?
I have to go from man Terence and what Dominic was saying about him getting hurt to the body. The fact that Terence can go
Hang on, wait.
That's
If you do a
more
Cindy
orthodox.
Crawford workout, Cindy Crawford workout, it hurts to the body, mate. There's no two ways about it. No, I'm with Dominic, mate. Liz Hurley is the one, right?
Here, Ran. What were you saying there, Ran? About I want you to continue with what you were saying there, Ran, about the body, because I think you were about to say something important. Go on ahead there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Crawford can go left or right, and that will take away Spence's body assaults, I would say, because if he's getting hurt one way, because Spence could go to the body with the straight backhand, like dig it down underneath the guard, but if that lands 2 or 3 times, you know, Crawford will just rotate the stance and he can take that away from Spence quite easily, I think, and he'll force Spence to come on the inside to work to the body, and that's when Crawford will be timing him with uppercuts and hooks. So
yeah,
I can't see Spence doing well to the body.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that would be his best. His best is getting in range of the double jab and then circling off, kind of like a Usyk style. Circle off to the outside and then try and shoot the straight left to the chin. That's if I was Derrick James, which pretty far off that kind of level, but that's what I'd be trying to take. Don't allow Crawford to set his feet, because if you do, that's what will get Spence knocked out.
Well, I think both guys have similar their foot speed sort of similar. Where I think Crawford has the edge is in hand speed. I think he's quicker with his hands, and I think it's very interesting what you're saying there about Spence's potential difficulty getting to the body, and I think what it got me thinking about was the stance Crawford will go with. You know, I think he does more damage to guys. He's more capable. He's able to hurt guys more easily when he's fighting lefty, when he's fighting southpaw. And you saw like the Avanesian fight, that beautiful, you know, left uppercut from the southpaw position with a southpaw right hook behind it, that finished it. And it just got me thinking about, you know, the famous the sort of Hagler Leonard fight in '87 when Hagler went orthodox and tried to match Leonard, and until he only realized that he had to go back to his natural southpaw before it was too late. I think that's right. I think I've got that the right way around, and I was just, you know, thinking what with Spence and Crawford, you know, is there any, because Spence is such a good southpaw, you know, would he be? Is it a risk for him to go southpaw with the aim of trying to really, you know, I think that's his best chance of getting to Spence. But you know, again, you're fighting probably you know, a naturally better southpaw, but you know, Crawford is so good at fighting, at switching. So it's but I do think Spence will find it very difficult to get into that sort of that territory that he was in against Ugas, where he's on his chest and he's hitting those hooks to the body, and then followed by the uppercuts after it, that he busted up Ugas with. I think he'll find it really difficult to get into that sort of position on a regular basis against Crawford, because Crawford likes to be in that mid distance where he's got the hand speed advantage, I think, and Yeah, so it'll be very, very interesting. But I'm going for Crawford by late stoppage.
Interesting. That is interesting. Well, I can support that because I'm kind of maybe leaning towards that, or maybe a decision. I don't know. Mr. Deal's just jumped off. I'm going to finish on one thing. I want to do like another couple of minutes, Dominic, if that's
Yep.
all right. I think what's intriguing about this fight, and maybe something that's kind of not really been spoke about, is the kind of the trainer aspect and oh no, Ryan's back in. Is the BoMac event versus Derrick James? Obviously, I think both good trainers in their own right. I think I got my names muddled up the other week when I was talking to Mr. Wellings, and I think BoMac has had his not I wouldn't say issues, but obviously attempting to kind of trying to get Amir Khan to kind of do things that his body can't do is a bit unfair, should we say? But at the same time, he's a big unit. Derrick James obviously has got Anthony Joshua as well as Spence there. I just think it's going to be an interesting. It's going to be interesting to look at both corners during the fight and how both trainers kind of communicate to each fighter and kind of you can't when you get to a fight of this magnitude, you can't bullshit your communication. You've got to tell your fighter exactly what is going on and where your fighter needs to be, and it'll be interesting to see both. So I hope that on whatever this fight is on BT Sport, I believe, right? So I hope that they have the microphones and they don't cut to adverts every break, because it'd be interesting to see what both trainers say. Any thoughts on the trainer duel? Do you think one's better than the other, or do you think they're both credible trainers?
I think James is probably the better trainer, but I don't think it'll. I sort of don't think it'll come down to who's the better trainer, Donnie. I think the only thoughts I would have about this is you're talking about Derrick James, and he has a lot of fighters under his. It's not just AJ, but Ryan Garcia is training with him now as well.
That's right.
Is Frank? I think Frank Sanchez is training with Eddie Reynoso, isn't he? I think Frank Sanchez is with Reynoso, but there's got the two Charlos. Derrick James he's got Ryan Garcia now apparently. He's got AJ Spence.
Let me add, Derek, Dominic. Let me add my 10 pence worth. Right, I actually think the BoMac Crawford relationship is one of the best in boxing. They both get each other.
Yes,
and I that's another reason why I can't see past a Crawford win.
Well, just going back on this, what you're saying, I think if you're interested in the communication between fighter and trainer on fight night, I'm really more interested in witnessing that dynamic in Spence's corner between him and Derrick James. I think I'm more interested in seeing their communication on the night than, because I think BoMac doesn't. See the thing about Crawford. I remember Teddy Atlas, the line Teddy Atlas always comes out with about Crawford is that he's got the best fighting instincts that he's ever seen in a fighter, which is some statement. And going on from that, I think BoMac and Terence Crawford, they can sort of communicate with each other without actually uttering words, if you know what I mean. Like Crawford, he goes back to the corner. If you watch old Marvin Hagler fights, when Hagler goes back to his corner, the Petronelli brothers, all they do is just sort of sponge him down and put a bit of grease on his nose. They don't even need to say anything to him. Some of these great fighters, they don't really need to be told. They know exactly what they're doing. I think with Spence, I think he's the one with Derrick James. That's the one that you really have to keep an eye on.
He's going to need the talking to, right?
He's going to need, I think, to be talked through the fight and walk through the fight a bit more. If either of the two guys needs to sort of talk through the fight, it's him and not Crawford, because Crawford is just a different. I don't think he knows what he's doing. Like, the other thing, Donnie, on Crawford and BoMac, there's a few other guys behind the scenes there besides BoMac that really do a lot of work with Crawford.
Yeah.
There's some Mexican guy, I think, but there's a few other guys besides BoMac. Not saying BoMac isn't the main guy, but
Sorry, Dominic, you've stopped there. Is that?
that was I was finished. Go on ahead, Don.
Oh, sorry, mate. No. Yeah, no. I'm not saying that the because the relationship between Crawford and BoMac, I'm saying it's the best because they don't really need to communicate too much. You know, I think it's almost like BoMac knows what Crawford has to do, and Crawford knows what BoMac's thinking, and vice versa. And I think it's just too easy. I think they you know, it's almost like they don't need to. Again, I'm alluding to the oh God, what fight was it again? It was the Porter fight. The Porter fight. You know, the way that, you know, it was just like, oh, you know, you could be down here, and he was just like, what? Like, really? And then he just flicked a switch, you know. Whereas I've not seen that before. We'll sign off now. So we got Ryan. We'll go to you first. Come on. Your ultimate thoughts on what the outcome might be, who's going to win. It's not a prediction league. Prediction, shall we say? So give it your all. Give us a little breakdown on what you think might be the outcome now. I mean, it's still a little way away. What we're looking at? We're looking at it's end of the month, right? Oh no, it's not too far away. What, a couple of weeks? So come on, Ryan. Tell us what it is. What's the outcome going to be? Who's going to win?
Well, you say it's not a prediction league pick, but we've pulled up Wellington on the pass before of picking Luis Ortiz on the pod and then Andy Ruiz in the prediction league, which was rightly amended, shall I say. So I'll probably have to go with what I'll go with.
He's better than me, because last weekend I didn't even make 2 picks because I completely forgot and I was too pissed, I got to be honest. So
yeah, I think I'll go Crawford stoppage. I think 10, 11, 12. At some point they'll be exchanging and he'll just tie him in with a sweet uppercut and he'll send Spence reeling. I don't think he'll go down, but he'll end up on the ropes and
that'll be some statement, right?
Yeah, and your BoMac will jump in the ring. He'll call out
Break
Johnny
the ring.
Again. It's going to be pandemonium. Again, it's going to be a good fight anyway. This can't be a bad fight. You get these big fights that end up being a bit of duds. I can't see this happening. This is going to be a good fight. Both guys, they're talking well about it. I think they both really want it, and they both know it's the biggest fight that can be made. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Good man. Thank you, Ryan. Dominic, come on, send us home. Come on. What's the outcome? Round? Come on.
I'll go for round 11. Crawford stoppage.
Really? You get very. I've got to be honest. Very brave on the stoppage. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think this is points all day. But I mean, you boys are sticking a stoppage on the line. Fair play.
My reasoning is just that I think Crawford has to stop him, and I think I'm hoping that he knows that for his own sake. I sort of reckon he does feel that himself, that to be better safe than, I don't think he can let it go to the cards. That's just my my sense of it. I think if it's anywhere close,
he's got to go. He's got to go for it.
He's got to go for it. That's the overriding thought I have about the fight.
Yeah, and I think he's the kind of person that will go for it as well.
Yeah, I think he is. He's a bit of a. I think he is. He has that streak in him, that sort of daredevil sort of streak in him, where he will risk getting hurt himself to go to search for the knockout. He'll risk walking on to something. I mean, you look at the fight against Kavalauskas, which I think is quite instructive. You know, he actually got dropped in that fight, and it wasn't ruled a knockdown. It should have been ruled a knockdown, but it's just because of the way he fights. He's searching for the knockout, and he doesn't have what AJ seems to have, that sort of that fear of getting hit when you're most vulnerable to being hit when you're trying to hurt your opponent. That's just the way it is. You're most vulnerable to getting clocked whenever you're trying to.
Well, you're reliant on your chin at that point. You know what your chin can take, and you know that whether you take one, you know that you've got the reserves to get yourself back up and carry on, right?
Yeah, and I think he'll be very willing to take that risk, because if you look at Spence, he's not really a guy that he's a cumulative hitter. He hurts guys with cumulative shots, not with one big. Whereas someone like Kavalauskas is a guy, or Virgil Ortiz, if he's well enough to fight, they're guys that sort of hurt their opponents with one shot and then they're in trouble. But with Spence, it's more of a drip. And I think Crawford, he'll back himself to say that is a level of danger that he can afford to take that risk of standing in range long enough to hurt Spence in a way that'll allow him to finish the fight. So yeah, I think he will. I think I think that's a good note to end on. I think the style that Spence has, that he hurts guys not with one shot but with a series of shots.
Yeah,
I think that will give Crawford the assurance to go for broke.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, no. Again, that's my thoughts entirely. I think that's why I'm edging towards a Crawford win. Again, on points, I mean, one hell of a statement if he knocks him out. I mean, that is, you're looking at. I mean, if he knocks him out, you're looking at, potential greatness, right?
Well, the only thing I would say, Don, is you say it's a hell of a statement, then it would be, but I think it's also, given the recent track record of Vegas judging, I think it would be an even bigger statement of the Vegas judges that they would get
a decision.
Get a decision right. If he does win, just Rand's put a very good question in there. If you see it there, Donnie, the last question Rand's just put in, does Spence, I'll just read it out here.
Yeah.
Does Earl's, now this is a reference to Rand's
it's a good question.
Repeated line about Beterbiev and the sort of supposed expansion in the size of Beterbiev's head as his pro career has developed. So he says about Spence, does Spence pass the London 2012 head guard test? And I think this is a good point, because if you're talking about fighters over whom the suspicion of doping hovers over their heads, Spence is one fighter that would always be in my list of fighters who I would suspect most.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, he's always been a fighter that I've thought he might, and the Charlos are other ones as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm suspicious of the Charlos. I've got to be honest.
Well, if you're suspicious of the Charlos, I think it's logical. The logical sort of corollary of that is that you'd be suspicious of Spence too, because they're in the same gym.
Dominic, because Ryan's posted that question, let me bring Ryan in at this point. Let me say his piece. Ryan, say your piece. Go on, because I don't. I mean, we're nearly at 2 hours, so I wanna try and wrap this up soon. But you make a valid point.
Yeah, I'm just saying that you were saying about BoMac versus James, and I'm kind of not. We're not in the camp, so we don't know. But all we can really go off is what shape they get the fighter in and what they say in between rounds that we will see. So Derrick James always gets Spence in great shape for his fights. He always comes in at 147, and there's been a few puffy nipples along the way. So that's what I say. We get the head guards out. Head guards don't lie.
It's interesting. It is and again, you make a valid point. Like, it really is interesting. I don't know. I've as I've mentioned just there, I've always been a bit intrigued with the Charlos. I suppose that's more because of the time out of the ring that they've had, and they always come in good shape. Is that fair? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it up there, boys. It's been one hell of a fucking call-in. I appreciate everyone for jumping on. Joe for jumping on. Justin for jumping on. Ryan, are we going to get some more Photoshop pictures from you sometime soon? I know there's been some that can't be displayed, but we get some more Photoshop pictures that are going to be more viable on a Sunday night value of the week?
Yeah, of course we are. There's always the think tank's always in motion, so it's just the time. If the baby behaves himself and sleeps, then that allows me my creative time. So there'll be some stuff. The gad's always good for a sound bite every 2 or 3 weeks, so it won't be long.
And Brian, don't worry, I've got a I'm going to line up a little baby Boxing Asylum Nutters t-shirt for your little one. It's going to happen.
Oh,
So I want to see a good picture from the young lad with a Nutters t-shirt on. Dominic, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for jumping on.
Pleasure all mine, Daniel.
No, it's very good. I should warn you at this point, I am from Irish roots. I'm not a Daniel, I am a Danny.
Yes.
Oh, Danny boy.
Sorry, I see your Limerick clear. I saw you saying that in the chat the other week about the hurling.
Yeah, Limerick, from a Limerick background, mate. So, Knives Out and all that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I was driving through Limerick in a few weeks. Actually, I'll be driving through. I've got a plan. I've been.
Don't drive through Limerick. Is my advice.
Oh no, I know that I actually bypass it. It's sort of you bypass it on the. It's actually you don't actually go into Limerick City. You bypass it on the motorway. But
you skirting it via where the road that goes from Shannon. You kind of skirt round it, don't you?
I don't go near Shannon. What I do is there's a wee town called, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Adair.
No, I don't know one.
It's actually, you should look it up. It's a very famous wee town. There's a famous golf course and everything on it. Very picturesque wee town, but it's sort of like a bottleneck going through it. But actually, I haven't told Steve this, but I've been in touch with Rob a while, and I've been meaning on my way down there, I was gonna detour where Rob lives.
Okay.
And meet up with Rob, and I think I'm going to do it on the night. I'll be traveling down, I think, on the Sunday of the week before the Spence Crawford. So it'll be next Sunday, not this Sunday coming, but the following Sunday. And and I think I might try and be with Rob as Rob's on the pod on the
He's
Sunday
at
night.
Wexford, right?
Yes, Wexford. So it's way over on the east, but I would. So I would be going from the east to the west, but I have to call to meet someone else before Rob, so it would be near that side of the country. But I need to finalise it with Rob, but I would be hoping to meet up with him while he's on the call on the Sunday night, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So if it's something that I'm gonna run it by Steve, see what Steve says, but I've been meaning I'll catch up with Rob, but
well.
Yeah.
Well, Dominic, if I'm due next year, I'm due a visit to my family are from Palace Kemry, which is just kind of like south of the river from Shannon, if that makes sense. Like, so just outside of Limerick and all that. But yeah, when I'm there next year, I'll give you a shout. It'd be good to meet up for a bevy or two.
Absolutely.
So anyway, but gents, thank you so much for jumping on and chatting. It's been very good. I've enjoyed it myself. I've gone from half a bottle of rum to less than a quarter of rum. It's been great. Again, thank you very much, and hopefully we will speak very soon. Take care. All the best. Thanks for joining in. Cheers.
Cheers, Joe.